All right. Y'all won't believe who I have sitting next to me. Man, this guy wears many hats. He is a podcaster, an entrepreneur, a photographer, a videographer, a multimedia professional. He's not one of those business owners that's at home letting somebody else run the day-to-day operations. He's at the studio. He's actually EQing the audio. He's editing the video. He's doing it all. He is the co-host of two very successful podcast shows. You got the first one, which is Shoptalk Podcast. He's released 415 episodes of this show dating back to July of 2016. Well, actually June of 2016. The second show is This Week in Culture, right? He's released 370 episodes of that podcast dating back to July of 2018. That's roughly 800 episodes. There's 52 weeks in a year. So that's about 400 weeks that have passed since he released his first episode. That means that on average, he's released 2 episodes per week over the last 8 years, which is crazy. They talk about everything on this podcast. They talk about race, religion, politics, sports, music, TV shows, movies, anything, you name it. I call him the godfather of podcasting in the Metro Detroit area. Why? Because he laid down the groundwork. He established a blueprint that many of us follow today. He provided a vehicle for most of us to get our voices heard. ShoptalkPodcast Studio has been the home of over 200 podcasts. This dude was doing podcasts back when it wasn't cool to do. He taught us how to bet on ourselves, how to take risk. He has taught us how to remain consistent and stay the course. These are just some of the reasons why I'm honored to have him on this show today. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you all to the one and only Jason Johnson. What's up, Jay?
Wow, I've never got an intro that way before.
Come on, man. Listen, you the guy, man.
Man, I'm greatly appreciated to be here, man. Love the show. I watch every episode. I'm a big fan. There's been some people on this pod. I'm like, man, I was never gonna ask to be on, right? But I'm like, yo, one day I'm gonna get an invite.
Did you know? I mean, you didn't know that, like, because mind you, I was coming to your studio to do stuff with Detroit Red, right? Yeah. And I didn't have a podcast show, so that like when I saw the setup, you know, I'm an engineer by day, so I'm looking at all the plugs and what stuff plugging into, and you inspired me. I don't know if I would even. Or if I would have done it that soon or had the courage to do it had I not seen it in person myself. Man,
I didn't know. That's amazing.
Man, crazy, man. So you just got back from, was it North Carolina?
South Carolina.
South Carolina, sorry. What happened there? Your grandma that reached a huge milestone, right?
90th birthday party. We initially she wanted whatever grandma wants, grandma gets.
Yeah.
She wanted a dinner, a plated dinner. She didn't want a buffet style. It was supposed to be 100 people. At the church in town, but she accepted like 162
Golly.
confirmation. So we had a change of plans. We planned it on her land, and we had tents and caterers, and it was an amazing event. But like my cousins and my aunts who were doing the original planning, they didn't get to the logistics of like parking until like 3 or 4 days before.
Yeah.
I'm like, how we gonna park all this many cars? Like
nobody thought about that.
Nobody thought about that part. So, you know, we put I would tell, like, look, the logistical and the spatial aware people, we'll take care of it. We'll take care of this. But everything worked out fine, and I was able to do some photography and some.
I saw you, man. Always working, man.
Always working. Yeah, it was when I was getting off work, they was like, enjoy your vacation. I'm like, I'm about to go to work. But it was wonderful, man.
Right.
My grandmother had a wonderful time. She was able to get like flowers, and so in the South, when someone passes, they typically put a big tent out in the yard, and
I saw that.
Comes
Yep.
And, you know, say they, you know, everything that they wanted.
So y'all had the microphone there and people was getting up speaking, and
absolutely.
Yeah, I got you.
Then I did some one-on-one interviews with people. I've been trying to get like a recorded history of our family's history, so it can be like in one central location, because they time machines. Yeah. Right. Like my grandfather, who passed in like 89 or so. I recently got a hold of all of he's always had a camera, like a real camera, and then REEL. And then the video cameras like through the 50s and through the 60s.
Dang.
And the 70s and the 80s. So I was recently given all of the tapes and everything, and I converted them to digital.
Wow.
And while I'm watching it, it's like, yo, this is a time machine.
Wow.
Like, I mean, I've saw pictures of my mom from her youth, but when I got videos of my mother when she's 7 or 8 years old having a picnic with my grandfather, I'm
crazy.
Like, the city of Detroit doesn't look the same.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is a literal time machine. So I recently changed my perspective on a lot of things.
Capturing photos and videos, it's like, I think people underestimate the importance of it, right? Because we get older, we forget stuff. But when you can go back and look at these things, they're like timestamps or milestones in life that you forget sometimes.
So I used to be the one saying, put your phone down, live in the moment. Put your phone down, put your phone down.
Yeah.
But some of these moments ain't for me to live, it's for my children to live. Or my loved ones to live. Because if somebody, I mean, it was videos of funerals. No, I know now when you see somebody recording a funeral, it's like disrespectful. But like my grandmother has photo albums in black and white of funerals and different processions and or whatnot. And it's like, no, this is a record. This is what your loved one looked like. This was the love that they received on their transitional service or what have you. And it's like, all right, so maybe I didn't get to enjoy this concert myself per se, but my sons or my daughters or my great granddaughters or whatnot, they'll be able to see what I look like, what I sound like, what people were, and how like the actual experience. I'm like, man, this is. So I've changed my stance.
Yeah.
Take the phone out. Take as many pictures and videos as you want because they may not be for you. They may be for who knows who's gonna watch this stuff. Exactly. It could be 2,000 years from now, and some random person is now watching intimate moments with loved ones. Like, yo, these people were kind. They were. And
it's better than somebody telling you because, over time, stuff may get lost in translation. The story might not be 100% accurate, but when you got actual video footage, that don't lie, right? Mm-hmm. So where you grew up in Detroit, Michigan, which side, the east or west?
West side. Big west side, Joy Road, Evergreen.
Joy Road and Evergreen. So who was in that house?
My mother, my father, my brother, for the most part. But I have a cousin who was more like a sister to me because she lived with us for a number of years. Also, technically two sisters who are cousins but live with us for a number of years.
Got you. So brother and you guys, like have the same parents. Mm-hmm. Is he older or younger?
3 years older.
3 years older. So you guys were really close, probably even to this day, right?
Yeah.
Okay, got you. So you describe your mother in a few sentences, and then I want you to describe your dad.
My mother, amazing. Damn near perfect. She was the rock of everything. She took care. She had a fierceness about her. She was very spiritual, very much. We were in church like 7 days a week at one point. Until my grandma was like, all right, you got to chill.
They got to do something else, man. Yeah.
But like sometimes I see that from people and I don't really believe it. But like I saw her like believe and like live it. And
she demonstrated it. Yeah.
Even when she didn't have to. When no one's looking, like, so I get a lot of my confidence, the way I talk and deal with people. She used to tell me, always look a person in the eye. Like in school, she was like, if your teacher says something that you don't believe to be the truth, you cannot tell her that she's lying or blah, blah, blah. You got to say, I'm sorry, but you're sadly mistaken.
Ooh, yeah.
So when I got to say that for the first time, I kind of like...
you got nervous, you know what I'm saying?
Real life though. Yeah. Like, I'm sorry, but I think you may be sadly mistaken.
Yeah.
But she was like that type of person.
Yeah, no, but that's important that you, like you said, you got nervous. The reason why is because, I think you're doing the right thing whenever you call out something that isn't true. And if you don't call it out, the alternative of you letting what's not true continue to live is worse. So
unchecked lie becomes the truth.
Yeah, straight up. Yeah.
So, sorry, I got to check it.
Yeah.
I know some things like you should probably leave that alone, but like sometimes I got to check it because the unchecked lie can become the truth. So nah, you can't get that off.
Okay. Yeah, no, I got you. So let's keep going about your mother. Yep.
My mom, she passed away in 2017. Wow. Lovely. I just love her to death. And, I thought about her a lot this weekend. Mm-hmm. And while we were at the event, my grandmother she was my grandmother's favorite, and then my grandmother told me I'm her favorite.
Oh wow!
The family doesn't like that.
Yeah. Oh, she said it in front of the family members.
At the family reunion, everybody.
Oh, yeah.
It is what it is. But I thought about her a lot, man, and just trying to make her proud. I'm glad she was able to see my current endeavors taking off and with the podcast and things.
Because that started in 2016. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and while she was ill, I was able to spend a lot of time over there and just build like a super duper dope relationship with my father. While we was over there, me and my father never had a bad relationship, but it's like a turning point where you think like, me and my father like friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You get to the age where it goes from being like a parent-child relationship to more of it's like a glorified friend.
Yeah.
Not that you just have a deeper reverence for than just like an ordinary friend, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, that's what's up. And you know what that kind of means too? Like with my mother, we talked about it and I was like, man, we just seem like best friends now. But once a parent gets to the point to where they see their kids making good decisions for the most part and they're independent, that kind of makes room for that type of relationship to grow. If it's a situation where your child is an adult but still making decisions like an infant, it stops that. It prevents that relationship from growing. So that's dope. That says a lot about you that y'all were able to get to that point.
It's crazy.
But during the time where your mother was ill, how many years was she ill for before she transitioned?
Probably about 6 to 7 years.
And that brought you and your father.
It was back and forth, but about 6 or 7 years in total. Yeah.
And that brought you and your father much closer together because like you said, you were going over there to check on her. And
we'd just be over there kicking it, I got him into like YouTube and now so my father is an amazing man. He's like the greatest man that I know. Like, wow, legitimately. I've never seen a person love another person as much as he loved my mom. Yeah. Right. He can build anything. He can paint.
You said that I think it was the 40 ball episode. Mm-hmm. This was episode 310, I think.
Yep.
Dang, 310, that's crazy. Now you on like 415 or something like that. But anyway, you basically said that your dad, he was good with his hands. He renovated most of the rooms in the home himself. Mm-hmm. He built 2 ponds in the backyard. Yeah. Y'all had a peach tree.
Man.
Like this dude knew how to do anything. So,
on Joy Road, right?
Yeah. On Joy Road too. Yeah.
Like, so now you can get a pond and you like put the black plastic insert in. Like before those existed, he just dug the hole, put those blue tarps down, had bricks to hold it, put like a water heater in the bottom of it. So like the fish stay in there all year round. Mm-hmm. And I mean, they don't get fed in the wintertime, but down under there, even when it's ice over, they'll be warm down there. Wow. Apparently a fish can live without food.
Crazy.
Through the winter. But no, he did that. Yeah. I literally saw my father do and build like everything. Yeah. And like my mother and my father were high school sweethearts.
Cass Tech.
That's
where I'm an alumni. So yeah.
They got married at 18 and 19 years old.
You don't see that too often these days.
And I say this all the time when referring to my father, like he had the world set against him and he could have done anything besides what he actually did. So he grew up in that Butch Jones YBI era, specifically in those neighborhoods. While everybody was getting to it, he got a job with the city of Detroit water department. He did the opposite, yeah. And retired from the water department. Wow. To help take care of my mom. But like, so when all his friends were creating children with some of my aunts, everybody left and he stood 10 toes and took care of his family, and we welcome in others as well. So
he said that he didn't think it was anything you and your mother couldn't forgive, him and your mother couldn't forgive each other for, and he wanted to really prove the naysayers wrong and standing the test of time and lasting in that situation, which is crazy, man.
Apparently my dad was kind of fly when he was younger,
Yeah.
Apparently he was the ladies' man.
The ladies' man back in high school, yep. Listen, somebody, I can't remember who talked about this. I think it was Jordan Peterson. He said that there's no virtue. Like if a dude says, I'm getting married at a young age and I've never cheated on my wife, there's nothing virtuous about that if no other woman wants you.
Right.
But when you somebody who is a ladies' man, you know what I'm saying? And you make a choice to marry somebody, to stay with them throughout that entire time, to fulfill your vows, like that's virtue in that.
Yeah. and I just respect it because I see what he went through, and like he didn't have to. His father, I mean his mother, passed away when he was 13 years old on Christmas Day.
Yeah. 13. Wow.
His father, or my other grandfather, struggled with alcoholism. He had, it was just set up to be like, you're not supposed to succeed, you're not supposed to win.
Absolutely.
Type of thing. And he did the exact opposite. So I can't do nothing but respect that.
Yeah, well, he talked about his faith being instrumental in that episode. He said that he didn't think that he would even live to see you turn 40, you know what I'm saying, and live out your wildest dreams. He didn't think he would live to be able to have, or, grandchildren, to be a great granddad, to be able to fulfill his vows with your mother, like fulfill his vows and basically his covenant that he made with her and God, he fulfilled that. And me and you had a conversation over DM where I posted something, and the quote was, "There's zero difference between being miserable and thinking for yourself." And I remember you hit me back and you said, "Man, I got to think on that one a little more before I just agree with it." But that's one of the things I really like about you, because you ain't quick to agree on nothing. You like, I got to sit with that.
Yeah, some things I just don't understand yet.
Right. But when your dad said that, that's exactly what it is, because a lot of people who lose a spouse, they start thinking like, woe is me, and why did you do this to me, God, this, that, and the third. Your dad shifted his focus from something that was more pessimistic, something that could have led him down a path of resentment, to something that was like, he put the focus on God, like, I fulfilled my obligation to you. And as a result of that, it kind of makes that suffering more bearable. So if I'm not thinking about myself too much, then maybe I won't end up miserable. And he still was able to continue down that path.
That's an interesting quote too, man, because discipline is pretty miserable.
Yeah, it is. It is.
But it's like, that's the point of discipline though.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
When you deny yourself of, it could be foods and treats because I'm trying to lose 20 pounds.
Yeah.
I want to get my abs ripped, whatever. Like, it's a miserable experience.
Yeah.
But like, it's worth it.
Them people be the strongest people. Like you said earlier, your mother, like, she was really living it. She wasn't just this Christian person who was trying to convince other people of what she was. She demonstrated it. So what she was doing every second within every minute within every hour of the day, every day of the week, like when nobody else was watching, like, that's discipline. It's hard while you're doing it, but when life's storms hit you, them people be the ones who don't drown.
Like, in retrospect, I think it was unbeknownst to him. Like, my father was initially a Jehovah's Witness prior to me living.
Yeah.
Right. So to see, I know it's okay to change your mind based on new information. Long story short. And like, my mother was a Sunday school teacher. My father was too. Then he was like the Sunday school superintendent. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was always cool. He used to have the church kids over to the crib all the time. Like, he had this thing where if you recite the books of the Bible, he had this giant penny jar. So on Sunday after Sunday school, all the kids would come upstairs, and like, if they can recite all 66 books of the Bible, they get to go in that penny jar and take
right.
You know what I'm saying? So like, my dad, he has a sense of humor. Most people like him. You know what I'm saying? He's not funny to me, but you know what I'm saying? But like, it was just cool seeing, like, I'm like, you come from what you come from, and like, this is the version of yourself that you are, and
like, you shouldn't be this, you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
And it was interesting hearing him on when I turned 40, I brung him on the
40 ball. Yeah.
And it's like him saying that I didn't even know I was going to be this or even make it to see. I never had that conversation with him before.
That was all revealed to you for the first time on that 100%. Episode. Yeah.
I even got to bring my pops back on the pod to have another conversation, because I don't know what your dream was.
Yeah.
What did you want to do when you was 14? Like, did you want to be a musician? Did you want to, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
My father wore the same city of Detroit, dark blue pants and light blue with his name tag 95% of the time.
Yeah.
Sunday was a suit. The rest of the week was, you know what I'm saying? So it was really just being work. Yeah. And he, instilled in us work ethic, stuff that I used to be irritated about, like cleaning the grass and picking stuff off the street.
But now you realize, like,
Like, thanks. It was irritating. It was miserable.
Discipline is miserable. Yeah. But you end up better in the long run. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So your dad, man, like he's just an incredible person just based on that episode that I heard. He shared so much, dropped so many gems when it came to like marriage and everything, right? And then he spoke very candidly on this heart attack, right? Which I'm not sure what year, that was before your mother passed away that he had it, right?
My father had a heart attack. I think I was 20 years old because I wasn't 21 yet. I was 20 years old, so that makes him like 42, and I'll be 42 in like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So relatively young. He never drunk, doesn't smoke. But he focused on Spam sandwiches a lot.
Spam sandwiches.
He really liked Spam and bacon and everything like that.
He grew up on it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
So after that happened, it was. I mean, we were all scared, right? And my mother, we just switched everything in the house. It's turkey bacon. We're not eating beef no more. It's
got serious
turkey.
about health. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And nursing back to health. But that was the first time I saw my father like vulnerable.
Wow.
And not like the strongest person in the world. And like I just remember something sticks out. Back in the house phone days, somebody rang, multiple people answer the phone, and I just heard them calling somebody like a creditor or somebody had called, and he was like just waking up, and he sounded like weak, not like but like physically. And I was like, man, like it hit me like, yo, he not like immortal.
He's human.
Like he human.
Wow.
And when you start looking at your parents as like, we only know them as our parents. Like
superheroes.
They're a whole nother person before we was born.
Absolutely.
And when we not around, like, and we just look at them as like mom or dad or whatnot. So it made me like humanize, like this is the actual person that I'm talking to, and like
empathize with them too. Yeah.
And like you not guaranteed to be able to talk to this person like all the time. But that's the first time I was like, wait a minute. Like,
The thing that I like most too about him is how he went about disciplining you guys, like the whooping house. That was hilarious, man. The story of the whooping house. I'm probably gonna let you share what that was. Matter of fact, I'm gonna let you talk about that.
So my father, he's a smart guy. Now I think it was psychological warfare.
It was. Yeah, it definitely was.
So, prior to us like getting we all got like spankings and whatever when we was younger, but before we graduated to like whoopings, he would just, threaten us with this place called the whooping house, where they didn't do nothing but like whoop little kids like all day. And in my brain, I'm thinking like the Legion of Doom or like the Road Warriors, just big guys out there. And then one day, I forget what we did, but like he put us in the car and took us to the whooping house.
Yeah.
In retrospect, we was on the corner of Joe Road and Evergreen at this burned down grocery store at the time. But he like opened the door like, go and get out. We crying like, no, not the whooping house, no.
And he said the whooping house is where little bad kids go and they whoop you all day.
Yeah. Like, we're going to drop you off. You're going to get whoopings and then we'll get you up later. And we just, no, I don't.
But see, I like it because it meant like parents, we don't want to just be hitting our kids. So you have to figure out clever ways to show them that there is an imminent threat. Like kids have to know that, because if they get older and go out in the real world, there's consequences. And those consequences will be more severe when you're an adult.
Yeah. Then the whooping house turned into our house.
So he was just kind of preparing y'all. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
It was psychological at first.
And then you said, hold on, it's real now. Yeah.
It definitely got real.
That's what's up, man. So you ended up, what high school did you go to?
I started at Cass Tech. I spent 2 years at Cass, and then I ended up graduating for Cody.
At that point, did you know what you wanted to be in life?
Not at all.
Not at all? Mm-mm. So when you graduated from high school, did you end up going to college?
Sort of, kind of. Well, no, not right off.
Right off. You took some time, yeah.
Well, I was wrapped up in this girl I was with. So I wasn't thinking about my life. I'm wrapped up in my girlfriend at the time. I got accepted to Michigan State, Ferris State, a couple of other schools.
Oh, dang. Yeah. Because your dad on the episode said you always got good grades.
Yeah. I was in love.
Yeah.
And I ran track. So a college wanted me to come run for them, Alma College, but they didn't have any more scholarships. So they wanted me like to pay and run. I was like,
nah,
I'm not.
Pay and run? Nah.
Like, maybe we can hook you up, next semester, next year, whatever. So I ended up going to my first I don't know, whatever that semester was. I went to WC3.
Got you. Yep.
And at the time, my girlfriend was she went up to NIT at the time because she was trying to do one of their nursing programs or something like that. I just went up there with her. I'm sitting down, and while she was doing the tour, some lady walked up to me as I was just looking at the stuff on the wall, and it was like some, I don't know, computers or electronic stuff, and she started talking to me, and I ended up signing up for electronic and computer technology. She never went to the school.
Yeah.
So I ended up enrolling there, and it took me down like the technical path. So from building AMF and radios from scratch, microphones, building computers, doing the whole. So one was the electronics and just doing like ohms and resistors and all the other good stuff.
Electrical engineering type stuff, yeah.
Then we did the computer portion, and then we did software. So it was like 2-year program or something like that, and it was great. This was 2001.
Wow.
9/11 happened while I was in there.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think the reason that I am the way that I am came from there. Because once I got a computer, we've already had a computer in the home, but like once I built my own, I'm on my own, and I just start going down rabbit holes and different things. And I was never the let me take this apart kid. Yeah. But as an adult, let me take this apart. Let me figure out how this works out. So I ended up going to NIT, which doesn't exist anymore.
But, right. Yeah.
But it was dope. I cherished that experience because I met some lifelong friends, and I was able to leave there and get a job, fixing computers. I worked at a place called PC Mart. We'll fix up old computers, sell them on the weekends at trade shows or whatever. And this was right after 9/11. I was working with a guy from Yemen, a couple of dudes from Iraq, and so basically the Middle Eastern, right? At the time where they was pretty much hated in the country.
Wow, yeah.
And I got to kick it with them and chill every day.
And humanize them too. Yeah.
Now, there's a guy named Magic. I used to I'm like maybe 20 years old.
Yeah.
19 years old. And we got to kick it, and he was explaining to me about his culture. I'm asking questions like genuinely like
trying to learn. Yeah.
Like, man, how come everybody be so covered up, or why come she can't sit in the back, or why she got, like, look, if I bring you to my dinner, what I'm saying, we got to keep the curtain closed, but you can come in, you meet my wife, and this. I'm like, man, these guys is not as bad as
the media is portraying them to be.
Yeah, and I was like, they just seem cool to me.
You got an episode. This was episode 4. This was back in 2016. It was called the Black Lives Matter and Conspiracy Theorist episode. There was a lot of things that happened during that time. I think Alton Sterling was shot. Who else was it? Philando Castile.
Yep.
Right. There was a lot of things happening, and you made such a profound comment at this time where you were like, I'm not saying that these events, Black Lives Matter protests are planned per se, but there are certain politicians and lawmakers who have a vested interest to spin the narrative to like push their agenda to the masses. So what you're getting in the media isn't necessarily the truth based on what the agenda is of the person behind it, the puppeteer. So, and I thought that was brilliant because, like you said, so many of us was scared of people from that region at that time, right after 9/11, when we was at the airports, this, that, and the third. But when you actually meet people and talk to them, it deads all of that. And sometimes I think the media prevents it divides us. It prevents us from trying to bridge that gap and humanize with each other. So I think that's dope that you were genuinely curious enough to still do that, despite what the media was saying.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. I said that back in 2016.
2016, you said that
because I 100% feel that way now, but I didn't always feel that way. Like if we had a slide, I'm not on either side, right? But if we had a sliding scale of left to right, during that time, I would definitely be on the left.
Yeah.
But the scale has it has slid somewhere in the middle. But it's very interesting. What I really do credit, because I always I think there's a reason for everything. I'm like, why do I act this way? Right? Why does this person act this way or whatever? And I know exactly what it was. It was 9/11, specifically the 9/11. After 9/11, I watched Colin Powell and Condoleezza Rice basically lay the groundworks for war. I watched video in a different language with words on the bottom saying, I thought there was weapons of mass destruction.
Wow.
I legitimately thought that. And I was like, we wasn't Bush fans, but I'm like, look, we gotta do what we gotta do. They about to attack first. Like, we have to do it. Colin Powell was on the board or at the top of my elementary room. You know what I'm saying? Like, what, Mary McLeod Bethune, all those pictures in Detroit public schools.
Yeah.
Like, so, like, why would I not believe you? Right? And then when that turned out to be like lies, right?
Yeah.
I felt like I got fooled. Like, I was legitimately fooled. And I was like, never again.
Yeah.
I'm never going to feel like y'all got one over on me.
Yeah. And that's why they like doing that, because they have to go borrow this money and we end up paying for it over time as taxpayers. So they have to sway us one way in order to give them the right to do whatever that they do, to tell these lies, right? Yeah. And so, we don't really even know what the truth is the whole time they doing it. Sure. Yeah.
That got me like into questioning like everything, because I'm like, well, I know what they said and it looked true on the surface, but what if there's something else?
Yeah.
And it goes down to it, deeper and deeper. But I'm like, those two things, like NIT and me getting into the electronic and the computer and the internet world of things,
and being exposed to people of different races, cultures, ethnicities,
and then having the ability to do research on my own, and not just from like our major outlets. So the first computer I built, I still have it. It hasn't been online since 2008, 2009.
Yeah.
Because I used to have a lot of stuff on that computer. And then one day, out of a 20 gig hard drive, which was like a lot.
Yeah, that's a whole lot.
I can only access like 8 gig of it.
Yeah.
And so I took it offline and I never connected it back online. But I used to have everything.
Wow, man. So Black City Government, which ended up leading to Black City Radio. People don't know that you were a rapper. You were a part of a rap group. I think it was 2 of you, right?
So I used to rap, but when we started putting out music, I focused on my homeboy Demetrius, or PD Green.
Gotcha.
PD Pistols was under the first joint, and
shout out to PD,
who also does the intro song of the Shoptalk.
Wow, so nice. Yeah,
he does the intro song on Shoptalk. So we put his project out, Detroit News, in 2005, and we put out 3 projects. So I've never released like music professionally. I'm on a few songs that's on streaming services or whatnot, but I focus like I'm just gonna do on. He's a better rapper than me. He's like my favorite rapper. So like, we're not gonna play. Let's focus on you, because so I've been on the business side for a while,
which is smart that you did that. Some people, they like, when I was out in LA, my friend Marcus, he's a much better actor than me. He actually helped me to realize that acting wasn't my thing. I was like, man, I ain't. No matter how hard I work, I'm never going to be this. So let me just focus my energy towards behind the scenes stuff.
Because like, I was good enough to beat regular people, but this person is this much better than me. I don't want to exist in a space where I know somebody is a lot better than me like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I'd rather, all right, I'm not the best at this.
Right.
And it was just better to focus on that.
So then you ended up doing Black City Radio, which was like an online. This was podcasting before podcasting was podcasting, right?
For sure. I think so. Detroit News came out in 2005. We were still pushing that. So this is probably like 2006. We went to all the radio stations or what have you. We went to JLB, and there was a person there, and he listened to the music, like, this cool, but buy her some Nikes. It's like, huh? It's like, yo, we want to hear songs about you going down to the Belle Isle and, buying a girl some Nikes or whatever. And we was like, we clearly not about to get our stuff on radio.
Yeah.
Like, it's impossible. So I had a website, blackcitygov.com at the time. And we figured, like, listen, we just going to do it ourselves.
Wow.
Went to Radio Shack, got some equipment, and we recorded podcasts in real life. We talk about whatever you want to talk about and play some music in between and we put it on the website, so you can download it to your computer or you can go in there and stream it. I don't even think the term podcast existed yet, but that's typically what we was really doing though. And once we stopped doing that, one of his cousins had opened up he put one in his garage, Street Hop Radio. Shout out to Street Hop Radio. And it was dope. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? He got a little bit more equipment and it was really dope. Then he went into like a physical studio, and then other online radio stations started coming from there and coming from there. It's like, man, you know, life happened, but like, man, I think I should have stuck with that.
Because you were like the first, you know, in the city of Detroit especially, I think that was doing that, and I think it inspired a whole lot of other people.
I'm like, man, I think I should have kept doing it, but now I don't want to do it because it look like I'm biting my own style. But like, I don't want to be involved. So
what ended up happening too, I read this article. It was written in 2021. I think shout out LA, and you talked about how you were not a risk taker at first. Everything had to be like planned out.
For sure.
Everything had to be planned out. So now when you get to the point where you like, man, I want to do, like you said, I don't want to necessarily seem like I'm biting the online radio stuff, but I'm falling in love with this podcasting thing. It's essentially the same thing. So that's what I want to do. Now you get to a point where you like, okay, I need a space because I don't want people coming over my house that I don't know like that, you know, which is limiting me to a degree, but you know, because I'm doing this out of my house, but I trust you. But anyway, so you took that leap of faith, you took that risk, and it sort of just changed things for you, right?
Yeah. So like, are you familiar with the Serial podcast?
No.
All right, it's like the first podcast, not the first podcast, but it blew up. But a story about a young girl that was murdered in 1998 by Adenon. This was a big thing. HBO did a thing on it. He just got released from prison like 20 some odd years later, like last year, and they overturned the case. This was like one of the biggest podcast period, right?
Wow.
And I was listening to that. I'm like, man. And then I heard like I always listen to like I think the very first podcast I ever listened to was like Freakonomics, which was like an NPR spinoff. It was just talking about money. It taught me how money work and how there's people inside of a room who literally decide what's going to go. So I was listening to podcasts. I'm like, I need to start one, right?
Yeah.
And Dame, me and we're working together. And I'm like, yo,
you guys have great chemistry too, man. Yeah.
Man, shout out to Dame.
Shout out to Dame. Dame is like the edgier one. He's, you know, he adds the humor too. He's unfiltered. You know what I'm saying? And then you come in, you add humor, but you like provide a rational take on things. You put things into proper perspective. And not only that, this is the thing that really kind of blew my mind as I'm listening to these podcast episodes. You're really good with backing up facts with statistics and empirical evidence. I don't think you get enough credit for that part. Just the intellectual part of what you do. Yeah.
I joke about it like I'm the good guy on Shop Talk, Dame's the bad guy.
He says you just as much the bad guy as him, but yeah.
It's just Dame. Right? On This Week in Culture, Ant's the good guy and I'm the bad guy.
Okay, I got you. So y'all switch up. Yeah.
I mean, neither of us are bad, but you know what I'm saying? You get to flex different portions of your personality on different,
not just be a monolith,
shows.
Right? Yeah.
Cause like I don't want to listen to the same podcast with just another person. Like you gotta be different. But shout out to Dame because like we used to just kick it, talk about boxing and battle rap, right? And the first podcast I was gonna think of what it was gonna call, I was gonna call like Ring Talk, because battlers get in the ring, boxers get in the ring. Let's just talk about battle rap. And I was like, well, I felt that. I talked about podcasting for like a year and a half to 2 years before I actually did one. This was like 2013, 2014. And we ain't started to 2016.
Yeah.
I felt that I was the dude who always came around with an idea saying, we're going to do this, and then don't never do it.
Don't never follow through. Yeah.
So I was like, nah, I'm going to buy some equipment. Low key. My idea was I'm going to record a whole podcast only using Apple products. Wow. I wonder if I can do it using my iPad. Wow. Our first couple episodes were recorded on an iPad.
The first couple?
With just like a little tiny microphone.
Yeah.
I just wanted to see if I can do it. So I bought some stuff.
Because I do know that the sound ended up getting better. The sound was still decent, though, those first couple episodes.
It was like a microphone sitting over there. It didn't exist. We didn't know.
Y'all didn't know. But y'all didn't let it stop y'all from actually following through. And I think that's what kind of prevents most people from taking that next step.
And so I was like, yo, we gonna do this it was he came over like on it's like a Saturday night, and we recorded and I uploaded it like late Saturday night. So my brain, we got to always drop on Saturday because the first one went on Saturday. So we started recording on Friday nights, June 15th, 16th, 2016, and we haven't missed a Friday since.
No, then you said, okay, let me go ahead and start another podcast, This Week in Culture, where, I mean, you guys review shows like Rap Shit. I know that's one of them. Snowfall. You got Power, a few Power series, Power Force and Power Ghost. Even movies. American Fiction was a recent one. They Clone Tyrone. Man, just plenty of movies and shows. And I like it because you guys have such a great rapport with the audience. You got a Patreon. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
And then you got something called like a BlackBerry letter segment where you give the audience a chance to like send voicemails or send emails with questions, trying to get life advice about their career, so on and so forth. And you guys give real responses to them.
Yeah, we do. That's a heavy
hard responses. Yeah.
It's a heavy burden with because some of the stuff comes across and it's like real life situations, right? Shout out to Ant, man. Anthony Bernard Wooden Jr.
Okay, Trinidad Ant. That's
Trinidad
Ant. Shout out to Trinidad
Ant. He came on Shop Talk a few times. We had a couple of people. Like I didn't initially like know Ant. We had a whole bunch of friends in common because a lot of my friends went to Michigan State. He went to Michigan State, and he used to post funny stuff on the internet all the time. And so you know how all them Justin LeBoy meme pages and stuff like that, like that was Ant before that became a thing.
Yeah,
he would just post those.
Yeah.
And they would steal his stuff and repost. And one of my homegirls was like, "Hey, you should have him on the pod. I think y'all be cool." So he came on Shop Talk and we had a really good episode. And I just wanted him to start a podcast because he had a very interesting take. He was a smart guy. So I'll talk to him about him starting his own podcast. I didn't want to, it wasn't ever my plan to be on the podcast. Be a part of it, I just want him to start one. So we had some brainstorming sessions or whatever. And we did these Facebook posts. We used to watch Power, right? OG Power, before OG Power. And it used to be like thousands of comments. So when we got together and wanted to do like a review, and we thought of a review pod, and he was going to, long story short, we decided we're going to do a review pod. Our very first episode of This Week in Culture, technically we played on Shop Talk. It was the Black Panther 1 review. So that was 2018 or what have you, February 2018. And then when we came back to do like the certified pod, we did Insecure, Power, and Snowfall.
Wow. It
wasn't supposed to be every week pod.
But the demand,
it was when these shows are on, we'll review and we'll be back later, right? But it took it had a mind of its own. Yeah. The BlackBerry Letter segment was a play off of Steve Harvey's Strawberry Letter. Yeah. But we wanted to make it blacker. It
was a little more gangster than yeah.
So people send in a voice note or an email and have questions about life. Yeah. And some of them was like really serious. Yeah. And then some were, more, dating and relationship advice.
And y'all got fans in other countries too on that show. That's crazy. Yeah.
It's really crazy. That was really, we got people coming and calling from Africa, from the UK, from all over.
Because it helps them understand the culture, right?
Now what really struck me, and I'm like, okay, this is different. So Snowfall. So when the Snowfall finale came out last year, all through that final season, I was telling folks like, look, when it's over, sending some voicemails, voice notes. I want to send this show out with a proper, man. We had 4.5 hours of voice notes. Wow. From people who listened to the show. And I took all those voice notes and put them in one episode. We never said anything, and it was just their voice for 4.5 hours. Wow. And that's one of our most listened to episodes because people do care about.
They care about their voices. Yeah. Being heard. Yeah.
And like, we reviewing shows. You can tell us your opinion about the show. Yeah. But like, they showed so much love to the show, and they showed so much love to me and Ant. And it was kind of like surreal. Yeah. I mean, we've been doing the podcast thing for a long time. Well, I've been doing the podcast things for a long time. So This Week in Culture, I never really thought about it I'm just like, all right.
Them the things that usually take off, the stuff that you don't even be trying to do. You know what I'm saying? That you just kind of fall into. So you guys started out, small studio, maybe 150 square foot, area, right? And then it eventually became like a public resource, right? because other people was like, hey, can I use your spot? This, that, and the third.
Yeah.
You took a leap of faith. And you ended up getting a bigger spot, which the one that you're in now, it has 3 spaces in it. The rent pretty much tripled. And then keep in mind, you haven't had to really even pay the fee, the rent, whatever yourself, since you paid the first month rent and security deposit. That's how successful it's been unintentionally, because you guys just did it for yourselves.
So like we were recording at a different podcast studio, right? Mm-hmm. I joke that we was paying the white man, and then I would go in there and I see the equipment that they had. I'm like, man, I got that. I can, But like we were paying, I don't know, at the time like $50 a week, $200 a month, and we only could get in here for this 1.5 hour type thing, and we had to book and everything like that. I'm like, well, look, let's just go find a little office space, right? So. We can just record whenever we want to. If I'm gonna be paying X amount of dollars a month. Like I'd rather have the autonomy to record like whenever,
when you want to, and for as long as you want to.
Yeah, and then like certain guests, if I don't want them in my house, then I can have them come over there. Yeah. So we did our first live podcast on my 35th birthday, at Rosie O'Grady's, in Ferndale, and it was a birthday party podcast. This was 2017, so podcasting wasn't I think we had the first live podcast.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
But, we packed out the entire place. Wow. And I'm like, man. And at that time, Judy or Crystal, Crystal White and Verge.
Shout out to Crystal White. Yeah.
They was like, we want to start a podcast. Can you record it for us? So they was literally the first 2 customers of Shoptalk Podcast Studio. And I just was like, all right, well, I'll help y'all record. Y'all can come over, our spot. And then another person asked for some help, and then another, and then like I never intended it to be a public studio. It was just some personal stuff. Yeah. So me and Dame and my homeboy Mike and Cool Breeze used to do a show on 88.1 FM, and they was paying, I don't know, $35 a week or something like that. I'm like, well, look, what we and you pay together, we might as well just get a little room and record out of there. And it turned into over 200 different podcasts coming through those doors.
Crazy, yeah.
In the last,
because when you see that black and blue,
we see the blue and the black, What's interesting is at the end of April, it'll be 7 years we've been had the studio open.
Wow, man, that's a huge milestone. One of your, I'm sorry, you were going to say something else. I don't want to cut you off.
We did a 1-year lease, a 5-year lease, and then we did another 1 year. So it'll be 7 years. And to your point about I wasn't a risk taker. Yeah. The first studio, I mean, the rent wasn't bad, and wasn't
that much of a risk.
It wasn't that much of a risk. It was, I don't know, $300 or something like that. It was something manageable, right? But I'm like, well, it's only me working, doing the stuff.
All the technical stuff.
It's a finite amount of people I can physically get in here at a time, because I was working midnights at the time. So if I get a bigger space, I can get multiple going at the same time. I can maximize and everything. And I just wanted to see, I really just wanted like 2 going at the same time. And she showed me a bunch of the different spots. And then she was like, let me just show you this one upstairs. And it was 3 rooms and like a little lobby area. And she was like, it's whatever the price is.
Like, more than triple. That's how much it went up. Yeah.
I was like, then I thought about it. Like, fuck it, let's just do it. And then I told Dame afterwards. But that was really the first time I took a risk, because I was not I won't even say right now I'm a risk taker per se, but I'm more.
You like everything to be planned out. Yeah, but it's kind of better to try and fail than to not try at all, and then you sit around wondering what would have happened. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
I got a whole bunch of, man, what if I would have did this? And I told Dame, like, man, I'd rather be like, remember that one time?
Remember that one time we did this? Even if we failed, at least we tried it.
We still ain't paid the people their money. Remember that one time? Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
One of my favorite episodes, I think it's called Group Therapy. It was episode 300 and probably 16. right? And I learned a lot about you on that episode because a young lady came in and she just asked you and Dame questions. And, you know, I believe you talked about the fact that, you know, you work a lot. So between work and the podcast, you don't really have time for many other things. And then you also talked about the fact that, because Dame tried to make it seem like, man, you just like me. You know, you ain't, you know, you just like me. And you was like, nah, man, I've been in several long-term relationships, right? And you kind of talked about why you know, like your goal of wanting to have kids with the woman that you marry, like that being the thing for you.
Yeah.
Right. Do you think how busy you are gets
100%.
in the way? He answered it before I even asked the question. Gets in the way of the love life thing, because that's, you do want a wife, you do want kids, right? For
sure.
Yeah,
it 100% gets in the way, and then, and sometimes I wonder, like, is it worth it, right? Because like, what am I chasing, right?
Yeah.
Like, am I doing podcasts and everything for the adoration of fans and loved ones, or am I I'm doing this to get a bag or whatever? In the grand scheme of things, is that worth sacrificing a family dynamic? And I'm really big on family, and so sometimes I'm like, yo, what exactly is it? But then it's a portion of podcasting for those who like are in it for the long haul. It is therapy every week. It does help other people. It's not just a full self-serving thing, but it 100%. I mean, when I started the podcast, I was living with my girlfriend. The apartment that we was recording the podcast in was when I lived with my girlfriend at the time. But when I worked, within an hour, I got studio time open when I'm off, right? So I'll leave work, come to the studio, do all that stuff all night. And it does take, it's a labor of love. It does take a toll on your time and your availability to be like available for people. And how the booking is, like, you just go online and book appointment. So today I could be free, but later on tonight, I thought I was going to be free.
Yeah.
Right. And rent still got to get paid. So if I don't take no bookings.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where, and you realize that when you basically playing with people's livelihood or playing with people's hearts, you know.
So it would have to be somebody, because on another episode, I think it was, which one was it? It might have been 247. It was called I Deserve. And you talked about things that, well, one thing you said that I really admired, you was like, I don't really look at stuff in terms of I deserve. I'm not looking for anything
I don't think deserving. I don't think anybody deserves anything.
Right, because somebody has to willingly give you those things. And I think too many people today look at it in terms of I deserve, or these are my rights, as opposed to I earned these things, or, you know, this is my responsibility. Like, for instance, we have the right to bear arms. We have the right to exercise our freedom of speech. But if you're not responsible, if you're not doing those things a responsible way, then it's going to lead you down a world of trouble. So I like that, because I'm focused more on, like, don't nobody owe me anything. I don't deserve for another person to give me love, right? I deserve my wife because I did this, this, and this. Now they got to willingly want to give it to you. Voluntarily.
Yeah. Because says who? What if the plan for you is not to be married? How you deserve it? And
that kind of prevents people from, like, it could prevent them from meeting that person or getting married, or if they get into a situation that doesn't go from first base to second base, because you got this preconceived idea of what you think you deserve, rather than sort of allowing things to unfold how they supposed to.
Either I deserve a woman who looks this way, or I deserve this man who makes this amount of money, who has this, and so like, based on like who laid out our lives. God sent you a receipt earlier when you was 6. It was like, these are the things that you're gonna get, like, that you deserve.
No,
like
that you probably haven't even worked for. So when you focus on I deserve, you lose sight of the things that you still have to work towards. If you keep on focusing on what you need to do, then, you know, you'll end up meeting the right people. So I think with your busy schedule, it's just more about somebody fitting in that world, right?
Yeah.
Like how my wife doing now, she's behind the scenes. So she's kind of helping me out right now. This her day off, and we don't take away from each other. We just try to add where we can. Yeah. That's
love. One thing I do, so, you know, you see the quote to go out there and they're like, yo, people make time for what they make time for.
Yeah, yeah.
That sound like people who are not really busy. Yeah, giving you BS. But like, I really have something to do.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Like, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
And besides the actual time it takes for me to sit there and have the audio recorded, well, you got video, and I got to sync the audio and the video and do little edits and stuff. Like all this stuff take time, and it's either you're gonna have a mad loved one, or you have a frustrated customer who then goes and say, hey, don't go to this business because such and such and such and such. I mean, there's a lot of women that come through the podcast studio, but I don't mix business and pleasure. So I don't ever want it to be a situation where it's like, if you go to this studio, the guy gonna try to talk to you. You know what I'm saying? So like,
nice. Yeah.
I don't want to be that. Yeah. Like, don't go here.
Yeah.
Cause
he gonna try to holler at you.
So I just keep everything.
But that goes back to that discipline that you have too, man. Because I'm sure it's hard. Because there's been plenty of fine women that done came through. You know,
okay.
Discipline is miserable. Yeah. You can't even. Yeah, right.
For sure.
I got you. No, that's what's up, man. So there was something else you talked about on the group therapy episode where you talked about your belief in God. Like your father, his belief is, strong. Of course, your mother was, God rest her. So her religion or her faith in God was strong as well. But you said you don't necessarily believe in things in the Bible in a literal sense.
Correct.
But you said your thoughts about that are still evolving. Correct. Right? And I understand where you're coming from. Yeah. And I'm gonna tell you why. Like, and it kind of helped me when I was listening to the episode with your dad on there to try to figure this out. But for instance, like there's certain stories in the Bible that people take too literally, right? But they don't try to understand it on a deeper level. I think there's truth in the sense that, like, for instance, I could say the sky is blue. That's truth. But then there's a deeper level of truth. And I'm gonna give you an example. Like if your dad says, man, I'll lay my life down on the line for Jay, right? It didn't happen in a literal sense, but I know for a fact that he means that on the deepest level. And I don't think people look at the stories in that sort of way. Like if we think about, I'm trying to think, Noah's Ark and him building this ark, people gonna be like, oh, he built the boat this big. And then, they had two of every animal more of every animal because people had to eat and stuff like that. Right. So, and then it took him what's considered to be today a lifetime to do it. Back then they was living a lot longer and he was building this boat or spending more time doing that than anything else. But I don't be looking at it in terms of that, because that ain't what I look at. Is that we're all building our boat in life, right? And depending on what we doing every day when nobody's watching will determine what's going to happen when that storm comes and hits that boat. And if it hits the boat and we drown, and I'm making like drowning analogous to, like, I don't know, depression, bouts with depression, social anxiety, becoming a recluse, somebody who can't leave the house, suicide, whatever the case may be. Like if that storm come and your boat ain't strong, if you didn't measure things properly, if you didn't, hit in the right number of nails in the right spots, then you're going to drown. But so I think people don't look at the meaning, the true meaning behind it, because they're so focused on, did this really happen? And it's like,
we got pointed, we are painted into a corner where it's that, is this literal truth? And I don't think, it matters, but I don't think it really matters, right? So I think some of the story, I don't know, right? I do think the flood happened for sure. Like there's evidence that the flood happened. But like, I think we are so wrapped up in it being like 100% literal, and it could be possibly written in allegory, right? I'm trying
deeper meaning. Yeah.
I'm trying to tell you a story. Little Red and what's the boy who cried wolf.
The boy who cried wolf, yeah.
I don't know if there was an actual boy who ran through around saying woof, woof, woof. But the story teaches you to tell the truth, because when you really need help, someone's not going to help you because they think you playing, right? Yeah. So if I tell that story, it's perfectly fine for me to tell that story, and there's a lesson to be learned. It doesn't matter if there was actually a boy called Rudolph who really said it. So
that's what I'm saying. Like that version, like that type of true, where did it factually happen, is irrelevant when you compare it, when it's juxtaposed to the deeper meaning of the story, because that's the stuff that I get from those stories.
And I get frustrated when theologians or regular people are arguing over, in the Bible it said, if thou, not if they. And it's like, it's not like a literal quote. Wasn't nobody walking around like getting. So for me to argue like the tense of a word that's in the translation of this, like, what are we doing? Right? What is the overall meaning? Like, which one of the 10 commandments you disagree with?
Yeah.
Like, regardless of all this other stuff, we can argue about who was the father or did John say this? Like, all right, cool. But like, we kind of all believe the same stuff, and we arguing over the little details. So when people say the Bible isn't literal or whatnot, and I understand it, like they take it as like an attack on your religion or your beliefs, but like I don't see it that way, right? It could be very literal. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like I don't need it to be very literal for me to still take what it's telling me to heart.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So do I know if there was a literal burning bush that was talking? I don't know. I don't.
Yeah.
But the message that you gave me in this story,
meaning, yeah.
I'm still cool with the message.
Because it still applies to things that we're going through in life today, the deeper meaning behind it. So no, I that's why I understood where you was coming from. But somebody who was looking at what you was, or listening to what you were saying on the surface, they wouldn't have got it. But I totally got it. That's why I said you don't get enough credit for how philosophical, for how, intellectual, how you bring up things and you talk about these existential topics or whatever. I don't think you get enough credit for that.
I appreciate it. Sometimes I do kind of just want to, sometimes I just want to cause trouble, cause havoc.
Yeah.
Like one time, it was a clip about, I talked about it this weekend to my uncle who he preached on Sunday, right? So when he came down to South Carolina, he only could stay for Friday, which was my grandmother's actual birthday. But then he had to drive back because he got to prepare his Easter sermon or whatnot. But we were talking about, I was like, yo, it's a hard sell for me. It was a hard sell for Joseph to be like, you come home, your wife was like, hey, I'm pregnant. I know we ain't never did nothing, but it's like, that's a hard sell for somebody.
Hard one. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, I didn't say it wasn't true or whatever, but like, that's just a hard sell. And I don't think we acknowledge that, like, could you do it now?
I don't know.
Like
if my wife came home and said, I'd be like, wait, what?
That's a bit. I'm pregnant, but God gave me the baby.
Yeah.
Like, we don't even know Jesus yet. We don't know the stories yet. Yeah. Like, this is real time.
But I do know plenty of men out there who take care of babies that ain't there. So sure. Yeah, I know that's not the exact same thing. Yeah. But yeah.
But like, so when we arguing that about the virgin, right? And some people argue that the word they initially used was unmarried, not virgin. Because, well, okay, what if she was just unmarried and not a virgin? Does it change the fact that the Savior came through here? Like, we have to have this story this exact way. And I don't want to change the story, whatever. But like, some people argue over that. I'm like, I think we still missing the point.
Yeah.
That like this, if you believe in the story, like, yo, the Savior came through this way, whether they was married, unmarried, virgin or not virgin, like it still happened.
Yeah. So it kind of had to, like, I'm glad that it happened with somebody who was a virgin though, because there's there's a certain pureness in that. I mean, if it would have been somebody who would have been around the block, that would have made it a little.
I would tell the story that way.
You would?
You know what I'm saying? Like you would tell the story like the most impactful way. So like yeah. So if I'm writing stories to get people in line, I'm gonna make the best story.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, I just want to change your behavior, because the behavior is what we want.
So you look at the utility of it, right? The utility of religion, the utility of the Bible. There was this German poet. He predicted that something as atrocious as the Holocaust would happen exactly 100 years before Hitler came into power. And he said the reason why it would happen would be the result of the collapse of people's belief in God and their adherence to Christian principles. And he was right. You know what I'm saying? So I think, and even somebody who's an objective atheist understands the utility of having God. Of course, you got the naysayers who will come forward and say, well, there's been a lot of evil done in the name of religion, a lot of persecution, that type of stuff. But I would rather have that than living in a society to where God doesn't exist in the minds of people. Because now, where are you getting your morals from? And if you're getting your morals from man, then God forbid you put your life in the hand of a man who's hell bent on watching the world burn. I always say, like, a society devoid of God is a society that's on the brink of collapse. And that's what we see happening a lot now, where there's no objective truth, man, woman, all of that stuff, right?
Like, I know God exists. Yeah. Right. That's not something I believe. That's just something like I know.
You just know. Yeah.
God exists. So like, sometimes it just be so frustrating, and like the conversations that people argue with back and forth. It's like, what we really doing? Like, what exactly? Well, all right, so boom. I've never converted somebody in an argument.
Yeah.
I'm going to make you drop your religion today because we had a 3.5 minute argument. That's just not going to happen. You know what I'm saying? But like, what can I take from you? What can you take from me?
What type of dad do you see yourself being? I think I don't know. It seemed like I'm just talking to you today. It just seems like you would be an outstanding father. You had an episode, I think it was 410. I think it was called "You Don't Love Them Kids," right? And you basically talked about how the reason why you have so many grown men walking around here who don't know how to control their emotions is because they didn't have a man in the household. And if he was in the household, he wasn't present. Then you said something that I thought was really profound. You said that there's actually no difference, almost no difference in a guy being in a house and not being present versus a dude who's outside the house just paying child support. So I think, like, I see yourself as the person who wants to be there and be hands-on like your dad was.
For sure. I used to joke about, like, yo, if I had a child and I wasn't married, and like I would want full custody. Cause like, why I gotta live with you? Not because I don't want to pay you or something like, but like, why? Like, why do you think you just a better parent than me just because? You know, I just think I can't wait to be a father. You know, if I'm blessed with that, you know, I think about that often, you know, because I shift my views and my personality over time, and I'm sure my son and or daughter, you know, will do it as well. And a lot of stuff has to come from like a self-discovery process. I can't tell you that. I mean, I probably will tell you God exists, but like I can't.
You still got to learn that on your own.
You got to learn it on your own. And self-discovery
through experience. Yep.
Self-discovery is the only way that learning happens. Besides that, you didn't really learn it. You just memorized it.
Yep.
And you can
somebody basically taught you what to think. You didn't really. Yeah. Some people have never learned how to think. Even at college, I think they teach people what to think versus how to think. And you know, it's crazy. You see people who are highly educated and they occupy these positions in journalism or politics, whatever. And you actually said that out your mouth. Like you got a good memory. Yeah, right. You ain't thinking for yourself. Yeah, right. Because you got to be able to think for yourself. And then sometimes you still man these arguments and you end up changing, you know, how you thought about something 2 years ago. And then you have to acknowledge that, man, I got that wrong. And it requires you to really die to self so you can be born again. You know, it's a hard thing because people, like, even when I talked to Teach'em Chuck, who was on your show, shout out to Teach'em Chuck.
I was just about to mention
I'm like, Chuck. Golly, I've been thinking this the whole time, and it takes a lot of work. Once somebody tell you something, and you know in your heart, man, that person got a point. Now you got to go down this rabbit hole and undo everything.
That's exactly what happened with me and Chuck, right?
Yeah.
Chuck used to come up with D-Rick all the time, and we have full blown arguments. Not arguments, but like he's stating his point, and I'm like, no, this, and then one day. He says, I said something, and like he looked at me like he shook his head like, Jay, you just don't know. And like, I'm like, damn, it seemed like he really like sad that I think I got the wrong. And I'm like, yo, I think let me go back. Let me look at something. He did make me change my views on things over time.
Yeah, you wouldn't have had him on there multiple times if he did.
And over time, I say this, he made me go check my sources.
Yep.
And let me go look for myself. And I know.
Because I'm not going to just say it, believe it because you told me. I got to really do the research and check for myself. Yeah.
Then you know D-Rick, of course, right? Like,
shout out to D-Rick, yeah.
Like, I can argue or I can debate forever, right? Sometimes it's not even my point. But I just think that both sides of an argument need a good presentation.
Yeah.
A lot of times I don't care what you believe. I just care that you know why you believe it.
Yeah.
Like how'd you come to this determination? Is it because you were told to come to this determination, or did you put some kind of thought process into it?
So going back to the father conversation, those are the things you're going to instill in your kids. Yeah. Got you. Yep.
I got to give you the resources to look at everything. And like, I mean, I grew up in a Christian household, a Baptist household. And, you know, I dare think everybody base should be that. You need a base.
You need something.
You need like a base and a foundation. And then once you have a base or a foundation, then you can add to your reading, add to your knowledge, and help put different things together.
Because if you're a kid and you become an adult, something going to become your God.
Yeah.
Something. It could be sex. It can be drugs, whatever. So that foundation you're talking about is important.
For sure. Which is why, like, depending on who the person is, I'm not having a conversation with you about religion. Or about your deeply held religious belief or political belief, because if I destroy your argument, I could destroy you, right? And then what do you run to? Like, some people need whatever the religion is, for them to be whole, to function throughout society, to keep themselves in check where they don't just go, wow. If you just take that for somebody because you like to win an argument.
Then what you going to replace it with?
Yeah.
And then what do they have?
Anything to replace it with, like, I set you on a path of destruction.
Yeah.
And I don't think whatever God you pray to, I don't think that's what he wants you to be doing.
Yeah.
Is destroying people and sending them, like, where are you going to send them to?
Wow. You got another episode, 400 and I want to say 15. This is the latest one. This was Spoken Words. You talked about hearing the conversation that Patrick Bet David was having with Roland Martin. Yeah. And he basically said that in sales, because I think Patrick Bet David is in sales. Yeah. He does like insurance stuff. He said, you have the power to change people's minds, to influence them, to change their opinions. And it's no different than being a podcaster, journalist, rapper, so on and so forth. Do you feel the weight of that? Because depending on what you say, like, you can either use your power for good or evil. Just like you said in that episode, you said the DJ, if he played the wrong song, depending on what crowd is there, a fight gonna break out. So do you feel that weight every time you press that record button and speak into a mic? Just the responsibility of it.
I've been thinking about it lately, but like, I've been in like sales for, 20 years now, right? And I know I have the gift to make people change their mind, make large financial decisions. And like I know human behavior because you talk to so many people. There's like 6 versions of people, and you talk to one of these versions of people, and you kind of know how a person reacts in anger and happy and sadness or what have you, and you use it to your benefit. You know what I'm saying, to a certain extent. And it's the same thing that preachers are able to do. It's the same thing that motivational speakers are. Like, you can galvanize a community and then move them in a direction, right? And that's a real thing.
Yeah.
If I wanted to be a preacher, I could be a preacher. Like, I know the Bible in and out. Like,
Pastor J.
Technically, I'm a minister, though.
Yeah.
I officiated 2 weddings, by the way. Technically.
So technically, if he wanted to say you got the credentials. So
that's not my ministry, though. You know what I'm saying? I got a lot of them in my family, but like, I could be a fake preacher, get up there, say what I know. I can say what I know to be the truth.
Yep.
And what you want to hear, you can pass this collection plate and you're going to follow. But like, I feel like I'm worse off doing that. Like
you would do more harm than actual good.
And I feel like a worse person. Like, if you know something is bad, or like, it's the people who make it out the hood, right? I'm rich, the whole 9 yards. And then you turn around and shit on the people that you just was a part of. Like, I feel like you worse than the proclaimed white man who does it. Like, you worse because you was on this end of it, got over here, got money, and then you still treat people like this. So you know how I felt, and you did it anyway.
Wow.
Like, I feel like you worse.
Yeah, because you knew what you was doing.
Yeah. Knew you had both sides of the coin, and you still chose.
Versus you just ignorant and you just don't know, right? Yeah. And maybe somebody like Teach 'em Chuck ain't came into your life to enlighten you, right? Yeah.
And the movie that changed this for me, Leap of Faith with Steve Martin years ago. He was a fake traveling preacher.
I love that movie, man.
Man.
Didn't he have on like the glittery church jacket, the suit jacket or whatever? Yeah.
And he healed somebody though.
And he was shot. He was like, he almost wanted to quit at that point.
Yeah. So I'm glad we got here because I do want to say something, right? It wasn't him who healed that person. It was that person's faith, right? And the only religion that we have is one religion.
Wow.
And everybody subscribes to the same religion.
So it wasn't Steve Martin. No. It was the guy's faith that did it.
For sure.
That's what scared the crap out of him. Yeah.
Yeah. And he like, I got that much control. Like, I thought 100% you were sent by God. So I got the placebo effect in me. Like, placebo a real thing.
Belief is a strong thing.
Yeah. And the only thing the major religion we got is faith, and everybody has faith. Now, if you're an atheist, you have faith that whatever you was taught and read is correct. You think you're right. If it's religion, you think you're right. You the scientist, you think you right. You have faith in the fact that these numbers and everything add up. It say God ain't real.
Yeah.
It say the Big Bang. Like, you think you right.
Yeah.
And you have faith in your beliefs. Everybody got the same faith in their beliefs.
So it matters whether or not you believing in something that'll lead to your demise, or you believing in something that'll lead to your salvation. So it's really about, what am I choosing to believe in?
What if you know you can find out that whatever you believe in can be true, right? Because that's the placebo effect. So they making a new drug. They give half the people the real drug, other half the placebo. They don't tell you which is which, and some people be getting healed. How'd you get healed with a sugar pill?
Because you actually believed wholeheartedly that I got you. You would be healed, or you would, experience this symptom, or whatever the case may be.
So the person who Steve Martin helped, he thought it was real, and because I thought it was real, my faith in God, I stood up on my wheelchair
because it was real to me.
Yeah, dang. So that's why we got to be really, really careful for those who can talk really good, and because.
You can lead people off a cliff, man.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And there's a lot of people doing that.
That have done it.
Got Colts and
the Jim Jones and all those people. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Man, so I think, man, I could talk to you all day because whenever you get two podcasters together, it don't never have to end, man. Yeah. But I want to just tell you, I've said everything that I needed to say in the intro in terms of why I admire you. But the one thing that I didn't say is that it takes a special kind of person to not only be brave enough and courageous enough to live out their purpose, to walk in their purpose, but to provide a vehicle for other people to live out their purpose as well. And I think that's something that, like, the fact that you made those two merge together is such a selfless act, man. Man, I just appreciate you for being on this show. I want to give you the chance to say any final words. You got any final words?
One, I appreciate you for having me on this show as well. Thanks, I've been watching the episodes, and it seemed like, listen, this was like a really good episode because I think the video quality and everything you did and the conversations that you have on there, I'm like, look, keep going. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I know you mentioned we was in the studio one time, like, man, y'all on this certain number of episodes. I'm like, but for you, keep going.
Yeah, keep building that boat.
Yeah. It was a Nipsey quote I heard. It was like, the only difference between me and any other person is I just didn't quit, right? Yeah. Like, and no matter what, I'm gonna drop another episode. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. We just very consistent. We did episodes where Dane was in the hospital. You know what I'm saying? Like,
life happened
from his hospital bed. His father passed away while he was doing the pod. My mother passed away from while we were doing the pod.
Still kept going. And, pandemic.
Like, just don't quit, because like, I had so many situations where I'm like, man, what if I didn't stop? What if I didn't do this? What if I didn't? And I'm like, you know what? I'm done with that portion of my life. I'm just going to try to do and see what happens, and like literally give it 100%. So with This Week in Culture, with Shop Talk, with life in general, I'm just going to see what I can do and see how long it's going to last. I mean,
man, what you saying is just like the Noah's Ark, the boat. It's like you got to, keep your head down, keep building, have your blinders on, not pay attention to the naysayers, right? And it's not about the result, like the shiny thing at the end of the road. It's more about who do I become in the process of continuing to build and continuing to release these episodes week after week. And then when those tragedies happen, you'd be surprised how much building that boat helped you to bear that pain. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of crazy like that. Because you might think, well, I need to take some time and maybe I need to take a month off. And it's like, yeah, but do I? Is that really helping me? I mean, am I growing stronger by just sitting around doing nothing?
Yeah. So many people, man, reach out to us on Shop Talk and This Week in Culture and just explain, like, hey, I was going through this thing, you guys talked about it, and it helped me, or it helps me while I'm on the road driving or whatnot. Man.
Come on.
We did an episode called Dreams and Nightmares. And
Meek Mills, okay.
We were just talking about our literal dreams and nightmares. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, some people have night terrors and things of that nature. So that's one of my favorite episodes. But so many people reached out and was like, I've had this exact same dream.
They can relate to it.
And most of these conversations go down in the DM. It may look like, this guy's crazy, he's talking about such and such, but I know I'm telling the truth because so many people have reached out to me like, I had this same experience. Thank you for talking about it. What'd you just do? And like, I'll be that person. I'll go ahead and say whatever is on my mind. What you gonna do? If you don't like me, fight me.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but it's almost like the truth will set people free, regardless of how it's going to be received, or you can't have this fear like, oh, people going to think I'm crazy. It's like, nah, you never know how that's going to free somebody else.
Yeah.
So, man, look into this camera right here. Tell people where to find you on social media, and all you podcasters out there, you can go to his shop. It's on in Oak Park, Greenfield Road. Is it 25900?
Yes, 25900 Greenfield Road, Suite 415. When you see the blue and the black, you know you at ShoptalkPodcast Studio.com. Book some time. We've been a resource for a lot of people for a long time. I put out quality audio, put out quality video, at reasonable prices, cheaper than everybody else.
Probably so.
I feel like I should raise the price, but I feel like I don't know. But like my customers are like regular people.
Yeah.
I don't have like a lot of businesses, and I feel like, can y'all? I shouldn't be thinking about their pockets, but I like, can y'all afford?
But that lets you know where your heart is, that you even thinking about that dilemma. Some people just be like, no, I'm raising it.
Yeah.
So where can they find you on social media?
Shop Talk Podcast, This Week in Culture, Shop Talk Podcast Studio, and then me personally, I'm Jay Johnson 313 on pretty much everything that matters.
Man, that's what's up, y'all. Conversations with TinBridge. Peace.